Well, I mean, everybody has a different perspective. We all carry our own baggage and experience to this work. I'll start to sort of reverse engineer your question. I think that women, first of all, it's a very mechanical thing that we have that men don't have. We have, because we're women, we have access to women. In many cultures, women and men live in different worlds, and they aren't always shared. Women have access to women's worlds, and men don't. And in this profession, or they often don't, in this profession that's historically been very male-dominated, I think a lot of stories have been overlooked because men just couldn't get there, and we can. So I try to remember that's part of my particular set of strengths and skills, that I can get places that men can't go. So when I see a story, or when I'm working in a place where I feel like women's stories are neglected, I try to give special attention to those issues, because I know no one else can cover them, particularly in difficult places. It's not always very active, these kinds of stories. They're sometimes quiet stories. Men fight more than women do, and fighting is very visual, and it's very dramatic and dynamic. And so I think in conflicts you find a lot of men covering, a lot of photographers covering that stuff. Many war photographers are men. But what gets overlooked, I think, are the quieter stories that are just as violent sometimes, that affect women. And they may not be as visually active, but the stories are really very important, because what happens to women in terms of education and power in the workforce and power politically affects everybody. It affects how children are raised. It affects how a society conducts itself. So I try very hard to make sure I give equal play to those kinds of stories, even if they're not as easy or dramatic, and often, even for women, they're difficult to access.